Let's dive right into this explainer because today we're going to completely shift how you see the human skeleton. When most of us picture a skeleton, we tend to imagine this dry, static scaffolding, right? Maybe something just kind of hanging in the corner of a high school science classroom. Well, we're going to absolutely shatter that misconception today. We're going to look at the skeletal system for what it truly is, an incredibly dynamic, active, living organ system that is constantly breaking itself down, rebuilding itself, and communicating with the rest of your body just to keep you alive.
To wrap our heads around this biological marvel, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the architecture of the skeleton, peek inside the bone matrix, check out growth, remodeling and repair, explore joints and movement, and then wrap it all up with essential skeletal functions. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Section 1, Architecture of the Skeleton, we really have to start with the big picture here to understand how this whole thing is organized.
206. That's the magic number. Now, at birth, we actually start out with quite a few more bones, but as we grow up, a lot of them fuse together. So by the time we hit adulthood, a typical human skeleton is composed of exactly 206 bones. But here's the thing, they aren't just a random pile of parts. They are highly organized into two very distinct functional groups.
So these 206 bones are divided cleanly into two divisions, the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Think of the axial skeleton as your core protector. It's made up of 80 bones. That's your skull, the vertebral column, the ribs, and the sternum. Its number one job? Shielding your most vital organs, like your brain, heart, and lungs. On the flip side, you have the appendicular skeleton. This is basically your interaction system. It contains 126 bones, making up the shoulders, arms, hands, hips, legs, and feet.
When you see them mapped out together, it brilliantly illustrates how these two systems interact. Look at how the appendicular limbs, those orange-tinted bones of the arms and legs, are effectively anchored right to that central axial core. The pelvic girdle and the shoulders act as these massive anchor points. It's an amazing design, honestly, because it gives the appendicular skeleton this huge range of motion to interact with the world, all while the axial skeleton stays completely stable and protective in the center.
Moving into Section 2, Inside the Bone Matrix. Things change pretty drastically when we zoom past that hard white surface and actually look inside, because bone is a highly complex connective tissue.
If we take a cross-section of a bone, you can see it's classified into two main types of tissue. The outer layer is the compact bone. This is dense, it's strong, and it provides that heavy-duty armor we normally associate with skeletons. But look at the center. Surrounded by all that dense compact bone is a highly porous matrix called spongy bone. It literally looks like a honeycomb, and as we'll see in a second, those little cavities serve a hugely important purpose.
But first, we gotta ask, how does a solid, rock-hard layer of compact bone actually stay alive? Well, the secret lies in osteocytes, which are living bone cells. To keep this incredibly dense matrix alive, blood vessels and nerves run directly through the solid bone in these microscopic, tube-like highways called osteons, or haversian systems. They deliver essential oxygen and nutrients right through the hard bone to sustain those living osteocytes trapped inside. It's like a built-in delivery network.
Now let's jump back to those tiny cavities in the spongy bone. Deep inside there, we find bone marrow. And there are actually two totally distinct types. Red bone marrow is a literal factory for your immune and circulatory systems. It's actively churning out red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Kids have mostly red marrow because the growing bodies demand a ton of it. But as we age, a lot of our marrow turns into yellow bone marrow, which is mostly just stored fat. But here is an absolute game changer for survival. If you experience extreme blood loss, your body can actually convert that yellow, fat-storing marrow back into red marrow to rapidly replace lost blood cells.
How cool is that?
All right, Section 3, Growth, Remodeling, and Repair. Like I said, bones are not permanent stone pillars. They are a bustling construction site that is actively maintaining itself 24/7. Your entire life, your bones are constantly being remodeled by two key crews of cells. On one side, we have the osteoblasts. Think of them as your builders. They're the bone-forming cells handling a process called ossification, which basically turns cartilage into bone, and they manage all your ongoing growth and repair. On the flip side, you've got the osteoclasts. These guys are the demolition crew. They actively break down old, worn-out bone tissue. This non-stop cycle of demolition by osteoclasts and rebuilding by osteoblasts is exactly what keeps our skeletons adaptable and super strong.
And let me tell you, this dynamic duo is absolutely crucial when we get injured. When a bone breaks, these cells execute this brilliantly choreographed four-step process. First, within about 8 hours, a blood clot forms between the broken ends just to stabilize the fracture, while a flood of endorphins helps manage the pain. Next, a soft callus made of cartilage starts to form. Over the next few weeks, the builder osteoblasts step in and remodel that soft tissue into a spongy bone callus. Finally, the demolition osteoclasts clear out the excess spongy bone while the builders lay down stronger, compact bone, leaving you with a fully healed fracture.
You can really see how that spongy bone callus forms first, that bulky mass right in the middle. It acts as a temporary biological splint holding the pieces together. Now that tissue is pretty weak at first, which is exactly why you usually need a cast to keep everything locked strictly in place. Over weeks or even months, the demolition crew clears away that temporary scaffolding and the builders replace it with the clean, streamlined, super strong compact bone you see at the end.
On to Section 4, Joints and Movement. Solid compact bones are fantastic for support, sure, but they have zero ability to bend. So movement has to happen at the joints, where two or more bones meet and get lashed together by tough, flexible bands of connective tissue called ligaments.
Depending on what kind of movement we need, our bodies deploy some incredibly clever joint architectures. The ball and socket joints in your hips and shoulders give you the absolute widest range of motion. That's what lets you swing your arms and legs. Pivot joints allow for the twisting rotation in your lower arm. Hinge joints in your knees and elbows restrict movement to a powerful back and forth motion, literally just like a door hinge. Gliding joints give your wrists and ankles that nuanced, side-to-side flexibility. And then there are sutures. These are joints in the adult skull that are completely fixed, no movement at all, permanently locking those bone plates together to keep your brain safe.
But of course, with all this complex movement comes the very real risk of wear and tear. To protect these movable joints, the ends of our bones are capped with a smooth cushion of cartilage. Unfortunately, things can go wrong. If that cartilage deteriorates, or if the joint becomes inflamed, like what we see in this X-ray of severe rheumatoid arthritis, the bones start rubbing directly against each other. The affected joints swell up, become incredibly painful, and eventually deform, completely losing their mechanical function.
Finally, Section 5, Essential Skeletal Functions. Let's zoom all the way back out to the whole body and look at how all this microscopic cellular action and macroscopic joint structure actually serves our survival. Because the skeleton does way more than just hold us upright. We all know the obvious stuff. Our legs and pelvis support us, our skull and rib cage provide this armor-like protection, and the bones act as levers for our muscles to pull against so we can actually move and breathe. But we can't forget those hidden metabolic superpowers. Remember that red bone marrow we talked about hiding inside the spongy bone? It is quietly working behind the scenes, pumping out over 2 million red blood cells every single second of your life. Every second! On top of that, your bones are basically a massive, highly regulated mineral bank. The skeleton stores vital minerals like calcium and phosphorus. And here's why that matters. Calcium isn't just for making bones hard. Your nerves and muscles, and yes, that includes your heart, need highly precise amounts of calcium in the blood just to function. If your blood calcium ever drops too low, the skeletal system kicks into gear using biological feedback mechanisms. It sends in those osteoclast demolition crews to break down tiny amounts of your own bone tissue, releasing the stored calcium directly into your bloodstream just to keep you alive.
Which really leaves us with this pretty mind-blowing realization to ponder. Our bones aren't just some static frame we drag around. They are a sacrificial, living tissue. Without our skeleton intelligently sensing our systemic needs and literally breaking itself down to supply our blood with vital minerals, how would our bodies ever maintain homeostasis? Think about it. The very thing that gives us our solid shape is continuously reshaping itself to keep us alive. And that is what truly makes the skeletal system a dynamic marvel. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope you never look at a skeleton the same way again.